Well, hello everyone. Hello out there, creatives, community, kind folks. I am your host, DBJ. This is RPG with DBJ, and today, this week begins our full week of talking about the arts. Yes, we will be talking about that often ignored and kind of fuzzy and, well, just in general thing known as the arts. Let me do a little preamble. I am starting a little bit later than usual. We do tend to have people come a little later as the stream propagates. So this actually came up because of a uh, divergent conversation with one of the people that I've had a long standing internet connection with, and that's Prue Prue. Prue is a dancer and has a podcast. The link is in the is in the Discord. So if you guys join Discord, you can find out about that. But anyway, it this didn't have her podcast and the beginning of her podcast and what she does has nothing to do with role playing games. But I always take the challenge of like, hey man, that really brought something up. Now in the chat, Rickard Rickard says define arts, and that's the thing, right? Defining arts is one of those hard things to do. So okay, let's get into it. All right, we're and this also combines my annoyance, slight annoyance with bards. The generalization or specificity of bards. You know, this person that runs around with a lyre or a lute on their back or a harp or something going into battle. Okay, so what are the arts? Arts are so freaking undefined, but I'm talking painting, sculpting, sculpting stone or wood, oil paints, and those kind of things. Whether it could be anything from painting portraits to propaganda and graffiti on walls. It could be dance, any kind of movement or dance of the body, whether it's a collective dance and people dancing in a collective spirit, like they get together and do like kind of a round dance where everyone's like drinking and partying, all the way to martial arts and the idea of combining dance with self-defense, whether it's a wushu or capoeira or any of a large unimaginable list of martial arts styles and the movement of the body, whirling dervishes and things. It could be song and anything from chanting to a rousing round of drinks and everyone's into a body, song at the bar or tavern or whatever. There could be chants where used in faith and people's beliefs, or it could be used for meditative statures or telling a story. There can be anything. Hell, in the chat, thank you. Rickard says for bars, tumbling, juggling, dance, music, such as rhythm, not medleys, whether it's playing musical instruments, whether it's the sounds of the voice. Poetry is a great one. Poetry, storytelling, many arts blend into other things as well. So you have everything from architecture to architecture and city planning to the somewhat the art of entertainment, whether it's training animals and puppetry. It could be whether you get into the political realm, whether it's like public speaking, whether it's propaganda, all those kind of things. And so for me, sometimes fashion is another art where the art is trying to tell a story about something, and it can be often ignored. So Dead Man the Storyteller says there are several musical monsters. And if we take a look back into our collective histories of just ourselves as we've grown up, whether we've heard little limericks or stories as children, all the way to mythological beasts, art seems to be a extremely prevalent constant, but we tend not to use that with our our beasts and our monsters. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to dive into how can we use art with our monsters. Today's Monster Monday, and the rest of the week we're going to talk about the arts. Now, when I say art, although it may elicit just one image, I mean all arts. So we can use those. So, for example, Dead Man the Storyteller says there are many musical monsters, and we can use music to either influence, cause aggression, an attraction, an obsession, or hunting, or any one of number of those things for our monsters. So, for example, there are a number of hypnotic monsters. Harpies come to mind. Sirens come to mind. Any number of fey creatures. Satyrs with the reed whistles. The Pied Piper. There are many creatures that use music to hypnotize and draw in their prey to basically kill them or brutalize them, or maybe draw them into a fey world where they can never escape or something, right? There are many creatures like that, such as like I said, harpies, sirens. You could even go so far as to have creatures that are hypnotic, such as the classic idea of the individual playing the reed flute to hypnotize the snake. Although you could have a creature like an Umber Hulk or something to stare at an individual, and then that individual becomes hypnotized by the sounds that they make, drawn by their sounds, whether it's the vampire that seems to speak to someone's mind and causes that person to leave their bed in the middle of the night and walk the streets, or a ghost, a banshee that instead of screaming actually draws them in. Foolish Kiwi says music has a strong psychological effect on players out of character too. If you play a track of some relaxing panpipes, half your players may feel at ease, while one smells something fishy, about Mr. Goat, about Mr. Goat Man. Yeah, I get, yeah, because you hear. I often have, when you're physically at the table with people, use background music, and depending on the type of background music, like you said, if you have like reed pipes that are relaxing or something discordant or what have you, that some of the players might be, oh wow, this is really nice, and like you said, they become very relaxed, but someone else at the table will feel like I'm getting too relaxed, and the satyr playing the reed flute thing is just like, wait a minute, they're trying to do something to me. That's what the Ranger says, I'm a tactless minstrel. I sing off key for coins. If you spot me in the streets, please kick me in the loins. Yeah, there's some funny songs, some bawdy lyrics, limericks that are just like dirty and stuff, which are funny too. Rickard says you could use something like a lyre bird. I'm not familiar with that creature. I know there's a ton of, off the top of my head, a ton of musically, I want to say musically endowed creatures. And you could also go for other creatures. Tesla Ranger continues with I can't believe I stand here and sing my time I waste, yet you who sit and smile at me sincerely have no taste. And I guarantee you could look up, probably type in like funny limericks or things like that. You could actually add to your story, and it could be really cool. If you take, if you guys half remember a digitally animated movie about, I was about to say Grey Wolf. Oh wow. I can't believe my mind just forgot about it. And anyway, okay. Please tell me in the chat, because I'm gonna start describing it. Angelina Jolie plays. Okay, Angelina Jolie plays a very seductive demon who grants these men their dreams, and then those dreams turn on them. And during the movie, the people in town start to have these celebrations, and there's this troll-like creature that cannot stand the sound of these singing, like the mere sound of leaves crackling on the ground, or the ice as it shatters. A Beowulf, thank you, Beowulf, thank you very much. It drove this creature crazy. And now, of course, the people there didn't understand why this murderous creature was coming into town and into their village and killing them. But the creature could not stand the sound. And again, there we have a motivation. Maybe there is a particular sound. There could be a song about someone that, I forget the name of the troll too. Was it the Grendel? Maybe it was the Grendel. Just because Grendel is it's got to be Grendel. Just because Grendel is so much has propagated through our collective consciousness, but the creature could not stand the sound of it, right? So imagine the players come into a small village or a town or what have you, and they go to a tavern and they're used to people being loud and obnoxious, and the people here are like, hey, we don't have fun here. There's no sound, there's no dance, there's no music. The arts are suppressed to the point where they don't exist any longer because maybe somehow it upsets this thing hiding out in the woods. Now, I'm just hiding under the bed covers here because it's so damn cold. It's gotten really cold. Got that. Angelina Jolie played the Grendel's mother. Yes, she gave birth to some wild, hideous creatures, and Angelina played the seductress, and it worked, right? And so we can if we just add in some arts, especially if you're like world building, and we will do this on World Building Wednesday though, but segue slightly, if you're doing some world building, adding in like fashion, any type of arts, whether it's dance or music or songs about heroes or statues and monoliths, dedicated to great the gods or elders or whatever important individuals. It's the kind of thing, like Rickard says, I'll go all footloose on that town, and that's the cool thing, right? Like, imagine bringing to save a society, like, you've got to bring in back to them music and dance, and the people were just like, no, we don't do that. Or you've got the town mayor and the town priest or something, and they're just like, we don't do that kind of dangerous dancing that you big city folk do. And I mean, it's silly, but it really can be emblematic of a situation where, come on, kitty, yeah, you sit right here next to me. It can become emblematic of a really cool idea where you have it's something creative and something where we tend to value things like gold, magic, who's the strongest, who's the fastest, who's got the best sword. But if you really think a little deeper, many times we value the arts. There are places in the world that if someone were to desecrate them, we would murder them, right? The individual that wants to spray paint, across a great, the front of a museum, or destroy a park, or brutalize a national anthem with their terrible singing or something, burning flags. We today know that there are certain things that trigger us and go, you'll never do that. For example, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and there is the Liberty Bell. And the Liberty Bell was forged and got a crackdown, and it represents the 13 colonies, and then ultimately the formation of the United States. And there have been many times where, in the course of that the city leaders were like, look, we got to take care of this Liberty Bell. We have basically a shit ton of visitors coming to visit it. We need to charge them money to see it. And unanimously, people were like, no, you do not charge people to see the Liberty Bell. They are to go in there and it for free. If we have to bump up our little taxes or things like that, just a little bit to pay for it, there's a point. You get to go there, you stand in line, you get to see it for free. And once a year you see people, city leaders do the 4th of July and they tap the Liberty Bell. Of course it's very historic, so you can't just smash it. And lastly, it doesn't ring at all. But the thing is, they use a little soft, spongy thing and tap the Liberty Bell to represent freedom. And in your setting, you can have those things, whether it's songs or dances or poetry or a speech that is repeated annually, or something that's done on the weekends, or something done before and after harvest, where those things influence outsiders, either with rage or jealousy, or elicit some kind of like harsh understanding for them. Foolish Kiwi says a lot of people discount bards in other settings too, but people forget that up until the past few decades, we had drummers, etc., marching alongside our troops, bagpipes, all sorts of things. Yeah, and in many ways, the drummers and bagpipes, though we think of it rather foolishly, you couldn't hear over the din of battle, right? So they used flags and banners and the sounds of horns and troop, those sounds, those bagpipes, those drummers, those flute players and trumpet players and everything were instilled a sense of rhythm and power and glory inside of people to get them. If you couldn't give your speech, you played these great songs and you'd hear these things and the people would march and their chest would pump up and they're pumped up with everybody else as they did battle, and there were those things happen. So over time, what's the United States ended up adopting a French revelry, and then they had another song for the end of the day. All of that is a part of art, right? It might be used for a different purpose, but it is artistic. Deadman says the USS Constitution in Boston is similarly symbolic. Yeah, I mean, we can all, in our own ways, name locations or events, the individuals, monuments to whether it's battle or war, because we're talking about medieval era here, Dungeons and Dragons, of course, 5th edition, but although it can spread to other games. But my point is that there's that mix of the honor and the memories of the individuals that were in battle, and then we merge them with the art, where the art itself becomes something that we don't want to lose, right? The battle's 300 years, 500 years, 1,000 years ago, but today you find somebody spray painting on a national monument, and some of those people will get stoned to death in the streets if the police don't come there, right? In West Philadelphia, born and raised, the playground is where I spend most of my days, and how much I love the playground. Buying a short set. Okay, so let's pull out of our ass some monsters right now. Let's talk about mindless monsters, animal intelligence monsters. We could have some animal intelligence monsters that are like, they may not be able to talk, they're bestial. And how can we use the arts to bring them into our games? Now, of course, we have the Beowulf idea. They hear singing, maybe they smell something that draws them into town. I once had a game where there was a small halfling woman that made pastries, and there were these murderous, ravaging, like goblinoid hordes, like orcs or hobgoblins or something like that. But they would stop everything to come into town, to stand in line to get a small pastry from this pastry woman that made these pastries. She was a baker. And despite the fact that they were, triple her size, whatever, if they were rude or tried to like steal a pastry or dip their finger into her batter, she would just smack them with her spoon and tell them, and they would never hurt her. And they would ravage the countryside. They would move mountains if anything happened to her. If she needed sugar, they'd break into somebody's house and go get some sugar. If she went missing, they would like ravage the countryside, turning over everything to go after them. A Dead Man, the Storyteller, says ankhegs. Ankhegs, the acid spitting giant ant slash mantis things that are like insects. Maybe they're drawn to the scent of something. They're drawn to the sounds of music. They could be hypnotized by certain sounds that are given by farmers. Maybe they came from ancient Druidic cults that used to do these chants or thrummings or drum sets or stomps. They would stomp on the ground in a special type of dance that created rhythm that could drive them away or drive them towards something or cause them to behave in a specific direction or manner. And then over time, maybe people just started doing it, not realize that maybe this really did drive the ankhegs away or did drive them to walk in parallel patterns under the ground that specifically did things. A Foolish Kiwi talks about siren song, of course, nymphs as well, and any of the fae type creatures that are non-combatant. They're very confrontational but non-combatant, right? We can talk about nymphs and dryads, sirens and near-rads, and many of them would have songs or perfumes or dance and parties that would draw people in. You know, you got to have yourself a fae party, right? Where they have drink and food that just like starts to hypnotize you, and you could absolutely reskin some of those abilities, right? For example, let's take a basilisk that if you look at it turns you to stone. You could instead make it a beast that hypnotizes people and they just never wake up from it. And you have to wake them up from standing there completely entranced as the beast rears up and like starts to stare at the person, leaning back and forth. A simple parrot or the Foolish Kiwi says, "Oops, I wasn't thinking animal intelligence." No. You're fine. You're fine. Azala says a simple parrot or a cockatoo that likes to sing. Yeah. Parrots, cockatoos, what are the mockingbirds or something that like to sing? So you could have like harpies and just reskin them as birds, but the birds flock around and they have a hypnotic song or something. Maybe that song draws people in order to find the lost cavern or keep or wizard's tower or crypt or something. A person gets hypnotized to go there by these birds. If you resist the hypnosis, then you can't find it. But if you get hypnotized, it draws you there into the danger, which is why most people don't come back. But now you find it and they're like, oh, that's why. And so some of these creatures could be pacified by sounds or the taste of certain foods or whatnot. And that could be a way to institute like, hey, I want to put in these powerful creatures against my low-level party, but I want to give them a way out. Oh, I know. How about they have to play a certain drummer song, or they must find a certain mix of herbs and spices and things in the woods, like a potpourri of sorts, to have them, to draw them away, like a wolf's bane. You know what I mean? That where I presume wolf's bane was a bane to wolves or whatnot. The garlic that drives away vampires or something. Foolish Kiwi says, oh, you could have a mockingbird that picks up hypnotic songs of the nearby fae creatures, or creatures that unknowingly endangers travelers. I like that idea too, because it could be, that's a really great way to have a clue where you have this mockingbird that's just doing what mockingbirds do, right? They listen to something and then they repeat it, and they're repeating the hypnotic songs of these other creatures. And the people, the passersby, whether they're travelers on the road, start getting hypnotized by it, and the adventurers end up either accidentally or purposefully or hired to investigate it. You have like people in town being hypnotized and walking out of town by these mockingbirds, and and you could say, is that magic? And you're like, well, no, the mockingbirds aren't really casting magic. They're just repeating what they heard. And it could be that maybe the fae creatures have broke a kind of a contract with the general population. Like, for example, maybe the fae creatures don't want the human beings coming to where they live, and now they find them. Or there could be some kind of other animalistic creature out in the wild, and they're like, I don't know why people are coming here, but they sure are tasty. Sure, I'll eat them. I wasn't planning on having people gather in this little place, but sure, okay, why not? Um, um, Foolish Kiwi says the bird tweets, a cloud of bugs falls asleep. It's now a happy bird. Exactly. That'd be awesome to see. Like as it starts changing the ecology in little ways, it's the idea of bees being able to populate crops, and the bees like start to go away, and it's like, why are the bees going away? But then there's flocks of these happy birds, and then people realize, the ranger or the druid in the group or whatever is like, the birds sure seem to not have problems eating things. They're hypnotizing the ants and the bees and the wasps. What's up with that? And it's like, well, they're not magical, but they're getting it from somewhere, and that'd be a great investigation, right? Another thing could be that there is maybe there are. Let's flow into our more intelligent creatures with art. A classic is the vampire lord who wants to discover his lost love or has a desire for a specific artist and wants to have a monument built in his name. There could be a powerful warlord that's taken over. The idea of an Egyptian pharaoh that wants a monument built in his honor, or a king that has a fool that sings, and only the fool can sing. Sing about the dictator and his foolishness, but anybody else. And so once these songs, designed in its name, gladiatorial games many times had the idea of being symbolic about the victories of that culture. Yeah, we sailed to this far off land and we decimated those people. And by the way, here's a gladiatorial combat to show you what that battle was like, and the people would come there and cheer. And yes, some of those gladiatorial battles, from what I understand, even had things like the slaughtering, unfortunately, of like bears and lions and tigers and cougars, or they had a gladiatorial ring filled with water to have like fake ships that were built, and the people would have battles and stuff like that. There were the chariot races that would symbolize the certain types of wars and battles. And so that in itself could be it's a both honoring how the country came about, but also a very bloody thing where people were thrown into these gladiatorial arenas. But yeah, we can go with the obsessed individual that lives forever, that wants to reclaim a lost loved one, and maybe a song reminds them of something, or they want to have someone sing for them. There is the beanstalk story. Why did my brain not Johnny Appleseed, the giant and the beanstalk, whatever, in the beans, and going up to go after the giant there, and in the animated version, and I'm sure there's other versions told of it, where the giant owns a living harp, and sometimes it's called something else, but I know in the animated version, because that's the one that comes to my mind right now, there was a harp that would play songs, and the song would pacify the giant, but the harp could never leave. And the harp knew that this raging giant would just go berserk until it would play these melodies that would put it to sleep. And so, you can have those ideas where you're incorporating the arts of different types into it. Zala says, I really love the gladiator stuff. To remember how we defeated the primitives, we will have prisoners fight fully armored warriors. Yeah, yeah, real fair, right? But that's what they did. And it would pacify the population / put the population in their place. Like, you either cheered because, hey, this was fun, or you cheered like, thank God it wasn't me, right? I'm going to go about my indentured servitude and keep my mouth shut so I don't get thrown into one of these pits, right? Deadman, the storyteller, says, saw an interesting comment in the comments for the Lyrebird. Have Morgan Freeman talk to one. Oh my God, that would just like Morgan Freeman would just like hypnotize you. You know what I mean? Do a voiceover for your player character, and it's like I don't care what happens to my player character, as long as Morgan Freeman does my voiceover, right? Watch as the great warrior absently walks into the woods, forgetting his sword and armor, and players like, yeah, Morgan Freeman, yeah, he's gonna kill my character. This is awesome, you know. Jack and the Beanstalk. Jeez, I was like. Adam, Joseph, Barry, what was the name? Jack and the Beanstalk. Yes, the Jack and the Beanstalk story. Thank you, Rickard. Foolish Kiwi says, not really a creature, but I am a huge fan of enchanted or cursed music boxes and instruments as interesting items for the players to happen upon. Absolutely. Like you could very much do the magical instrument that maybe has side effects. So someone opens it up or plays the instrument, or it starts making music, whether it's like a massive piano that has organ pipes that blast across the land, or a small little lyre or lute that a player character plays, and maybe it's like after playing the song, maybe the song tends to stretch for miles and miles until it hits the ears of something, or maybe there's it's like the Wild Hunt, where there's a master and he's got these wild animals or something like wolves. Classically, it would be like dire wolves with the and the person with the horned helmet, the deer horned helmet. But you could have this person who does the master hunt, and anyone who brings up the legacy, sings the songs or plays the music of this old legacy or destroyed culture is hunted down so that they will never, ever, come to light again and come to fruition. Maybe there's a song or dance or something that brings forth like mummies or the undead, bringing them back to life because it was foretold that no one will ever speak of this ancient culture, and for 1,000 generations, no one's ever spoken of them. But then someone finds a musical instrument, songs or whatever, and starts to sing them, not knowing that, hey, this would remove the ancient curse that kept these things down. Now the music is bringing them back up, and they're trying to bring back this ancient, crazy culture or something. As always, there's a harp mimic that is soothed by the sound of someone playing it. So when the music stops, it gets mad and goes on a rampage. Ooh, wow. Oh man, coming about with the meme idea. Yeah, that's actually kind of cool to have a mimic that's like a mimic of a harp that's soothed by its own sounds that people play on it. Wow, I like that. Maybe hell, the harp could be sitting inside of a public location, like where they play music, and people just come and visit, have zero idea, but randomly people are killed in town and they don't know why. But then when the minstrels come back to town, or the minstrels, maybe one of the minstrels got sick and the killing starts, the minstrel gets better and they start playing again. Maybe they accuse one of the minstrels, but it's none of them because they all have alibis. Man, that'd be nasty. Foolish Kiwi says, a cursed music box pops open when touched and begins to play until it winds all the way down. When it pops open, anyone who hears its body begins to slowly and forcibly dance, mimicking the little porcelain dancers spinning in the box. Yeah, I mean, what was the there's a spell, an old edition spell that used to do that, where when the spell played, you were forced to dance. And then there were cursed slippers that if you placed them on, you would dance forever until you passed out and died. Yeah, and yes, of course, if you fail to save. And that could be a thing, right? I mean, hell, Third Pillar Thursday, that's an idea where you have music playing in the background and the players don't understand why hey, Prue, yeah, we're talking about you. So the players don't understand that we're talking around you. No, that's not exactly it. Anyway, the players go into a castle, right? And they hear this song, and the song sounds pleasant, but they're not sure why. And then as they get deeper and deeper in the castles, they can't resist thrumming their feet and fingers and everything to the music that's playing until they get closer and closer to the BBEG, the big bad evil guy. And when they get there, the music is causing them to want to dance and parade around. And they're like, no, I want to fight, but I feel so good. I want to dance, Azala says there's a demonic spell, something with dance in the name, where the character dances and at the end, everyone around who isn't a demon takes a bunch of damage. Tie that to the dancing figure. Yeah, I mean, that could be very much so where there it's like a it's the desire to be in part of the arts is so strong that maybe there's a demon that's like, oh, you want to make a deal? You want to be the greatest artist in the world, whether it's dance or singing, whatever. I'll grant it to you, but guess what? It's going to draw. It's the punishment, right? It's making one of those 3 wishes and they backfire on you. It could be drawing something demonic in it. I know what you're talking about, Azala. I just cannot think of the. I don't know, was this Dance of Devils or something like that. I know exactly what you're talking about, but yeah, we can using the arts can very much enhance our gaming experiences, and a lot of times we tend not to think about the arts. I mentioned fashion, I mentioned dance and sculpting and things, and many of those things they don't necessarily have to be magical, but they could have an extreme influence in the game. For example, if we think of let's think of our own world where you have a movie or a TV show where there's a post-apocalyptic thing. And if you notice, in a lot of times what they do is you'll see people going around gathering important items. They start taking paintings off the wall, important books that have been written and sealing them up, putting them into crates, filling warehouses with these important things that are they represent our culture. And I understand that player characters are like, I don't want attachments. Fashion doesn't matter to me. I'm just a dirty bum. Music doesn't matter to me unless I'm a bard, in which case I run around with a lute on my back. But having a fashion sense, having a sense for music or dance or the arts or respect for important figures or monuments or locations is very important. And so threats to that could be a draw. For example, let's say there's a hill with a giant monument to one of the gods and it's up on the hill, but these enemies have surrounded it and are using it as their headquarters. And it could be, hey, we need to get those people out of there. And the PCs might be like, well, they're not hurting you. They're just encamped around this statue, right? But the people are like, no, that statue is an honor to a great saint. They need to leave. In our own society, we have places in our own Middle Eastern world that are very important for religious reasons, and various people for their own for good or bad would like to see it kept for them and remove everybody else out of that region. And many people around the world travel there for that reason, and so it could be quite important. The music, the architecture, could be Otto's irresistible dance. Thank you, Dead Man, who always comes through in the clutch. Yes, Otto's irresistible dance. Foolish Kiwi says a sculptor could be great at recreating runes or other of other cultures with his keen eye for patterns and symmetry. And imagine that, right? There's a sculptor who the sculptor isn't magical, but the sculptor is so good. I know there's a Greek or Roman or Latin story or something where a sculptor creates a sculpture that is so lifelike, it comes alive. The sculptor could create runes and glyphs for a king, just really recreating the glyphs it saw from other magic users and using it to defend the realm, or putting it above doors, or defending, hidden areas. And the sculptor is just really good at creating it. And maybe someone kidnaps the sculptor or wants the sculptor to stop and wants to kill the sculptor. The king knows that this sculptor is a master and wants the sculptor to teach other people, and the sculptor is like, no, my art is for me. I'm not about to teach anybody else. And that could be a point of contention if you doing far more like a political game. Zala says that's why I like Cyberpunk 2020's fashion. And it's tied to an actual score. Exactly. Fashion is very important. The things you wear, how your appearance, your demeanor, And because fashion changes, maybe a PC leaves, comes back and finds out that, they're out of fashion sense. And fashion, unfortunately, dictates how people treat you. It's why doctors wear lab coats. It's why, businesses want you to wear their, foam hats and T-shirts for their business. It sends a message of some sort, whether it's professionalism, whether it's a brilliance, whether it's representative of a certain type of how much money you have, how much influence you have, how much power you have. Oh man, yeah. Deadman says the man who hires the painter to paint a picture that ages instead of the man. Dorian Gray. The first of all, there's an actual really great movie. The picture, I believe it's called The Picture of Dorian Gray. But in Dorian Gray becomes this very elegant, well-spoken, charismatic, sexually attractive individual for men and women in what's the show? Penny Dreadful series. I think it was 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons. It's on Netflix, where they all the Penny Dreadful characters were together. And Dorian Gray is this individual who basically lives forever, but the painting itself ages and turns. It becomes corrupted if you take a look at the painting, and represents all of his decadence and evil and injury as well. He lives forever until the painting itself is taken out. Dorian Gray was also in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen graphic novel and movie as well. Or maybe not the graphic novel, I think the movies. Yes, the movies, but not the graphic novel. Doesn't matter. But yeah, how about a lich, right? You have a powerful lich that doesn't look undead, but the painting is the phylactery, right? The painting was created by this great painter who was maybe killed later on, or this painter only paints one painting every 10 years or whatnot. And the painter doesn't care about the after effects. The painter is just like, I am a master of my own, I just want to create the best painting forever. And it draws the person's soul into it. Foolish Kiwi says, sorry. I missed it. Okay, here we go. Rickard says, I can't pronounce it. Har Galatine equals Swedish folk ballad from the 16th century about, and I'm going to brutalize the word, Har Gandesen, my stupid, lazy American accent, a tale how the youth of the village Harga decided to dance to death as the devil plays a dance tune that made them unable to stop. And again, these stories propagate around the world, right? Like, that's something I heard about, but I wasn't sure where it came from. And I'm sure it went through like 200 different cultures before it even got to my ears, right? And then over time, 200 years as well, right? So those kind of stories are awesome, because it's not just, well, you fought this creature and it killed you. It's like, well, this person danced forever. And then all of a sudden you feel yourself wanting to dance. And it's like, oh, mate, do I just like the song, or is there something hypnotizing me? Foolish Kiwi says, that's why I like using comeliness as an extra stat that just starts at an average and goes up or down based on if you're dressed exceptionally, or are severely scarred, unless you're trying to look tough, etc. It basically is the physical appearance component of charisma. Exactly, because charisma, you could claim there's people in history that weren't the most attractive or well, or even like let me pick somebody like Gandhi, right? You could make an argument that he may not have been the most attractive person or well-dressed person, but had a ton of charisma to do what he did, right? You could pick many people throughout history that had tons of charisma, but they may not have looked well. Their appearance, you would go, nah, I don't think they're very attractive, but they were extremely charismatic. And the combination of the comeliness, their appearance, and their attractiveness raises people up. There are plenty of actors and actresses we know today that are like, yeah, you look good, but as an actor, actress, or performer, like, your skills need to be, worked on. Rickard says a haunting tune for a folk ballad too. Yeah, and imagine if it's a great way, because not hinting, really basic. You guys said in the chat, if someone duplicates the art, maybe they're duplicating the magic as well, for good or bad. Maybe there's a rival bard out there who's heard some of these haunting and rather corrupting tunes and is playing these songs for people, gaining a lot of money and leaving town as soon as possible, because he or she is leaving a wake of misery behind as these people dance to the tune over and over again, and they're spending all their time dancing, and they're not going out in the fields and cultivating the food that they need for the winter. The guards are not going out and protecting the countryside or patrolling the castle walls because they're dancing or something like that. Azala says, remember, there are people who view combat and war as a form of art. Exactly. There's definitely a way for, battle and war and that kind of thing is almost an art form unto itself. You thinking of a stereotypical samurai, they would engage in artistic pursuits as well as their militaristic pursuits, whether it's bonsai or poetry, haiku, or calligraphy, and even poetry with the haiku and such. These are things that they would engage in and meet together before a battle to exchange things. They would use makeup on their face and perfumes so that if they died, they would have a very well-formed head their head would be brought back to their enemy, and they would look good when they died, right? You could have warriors or battles where they look at you like, no, you need to clean your armor, look your best. We're about to go to war. We need our best, musicians on the battlefield. What's the way to say it? You are given honor if you fight in the most artistic manner. And I'm not really putting it well, but you would be given honor. People would remember who you were if you slayed your enemy in the most dramatic and artistic and skilled manner, as opposed to just hacking them down, right? And people want to live forever. And sometimes living forever is having your name live on in song. So imagine there are people who are going into war, but it's not so much killing their enemy. It's more like, hey, I want to look good in war. Prue says, a sculptor that makes dolls for street plays, not knowing that his inspiration are souls trapped in the ether for different reasons. That could be a fun hook. The PCs recognize as someone I play. You know what? You could have creepy dolls just creep me out. But imagine, the doll creator making toys that people love and they bring into their homes, and they start stealing things or stealing people's souls, or the souls of the dead go into the toys, and people want them. A sculptor that carves wooden and stone figures, and the dead go into those stone figures to be reborn again. And then maybe that's how golems walk around the city. There could be someone who forms things out of nature, and that's what summons elementals. Someone stacks stones in a certain manner at a certain time and day and makes these beautiful things, and they come to life for good or bad. Deadman says the Hargalaton story is roughly 500 years ago. Sorry, I didn't realize that's what you were referring to, but I completely brutalized the pronunciation of that. So I apologize to that. Put a link to the song in the Discord. Absolutely. Go for it. Foolish Kiwi says, I'm no wizard, but this scroll should be easy enough to forge a copy of. We should at least be able to get a small zap out of it. Yeah, you know what? That's a thing too, right? How many people would want to recopy? There's nothing stopping an average person from copying from a spell book. Now, they may not know spells, but hey, if a good forger might be able to do that and spread that around. Someone's spell book gets stolen and the spells in it get copied by a master forger who sells them on the black market. And it's having the end results are more chaos magic more than reliable. And everyone wants to have their magic missile, but the magic missiles are like firing off from random ways, or turning them into goats, or turning them into stone or something by accident. I'm, maybe not so gonzo, but you could have something like that as well. Prue says, an artist that can't stop creating. PC's found a sculptor whose tools are broken and hands are worn down to bloody stubs, but the artist is still trying to give form to something. There could be people who are trying to kidnap that sculptor. Like, the sculptor just cannot stop creating, and rival factions want that sculptor to create something for them. And that individual, it's like, is driven mad by being influenced by so much creativity. Foolish Kiwi says, says to Prue, ouch, that one is actually relatable. Yeah, how many people suffer for their art, right? That's not very far away. And there could be maybe there are many a bard who, if unable to release their creative energies, falls into that. That could be a reason why there are some bards that are, the people love what they create, but you got to leave town because they influence people too much, right? Your paintings are too influential. Your sculptings are too lifelike. Your music is drawing us away from our work. You're too influential. You can stay for a day, but you're going to have to leave. And the PC bard is like, why are they telling me to go? And you find out that there's this long legacy of bards being driven insane by their own art. Azalis is going back to the gladiator. They have to be good enough at fighting to also make it fun and dramatic, to put on a show while fighting for their lives. Yeah, and in Magic Gladiators, that was the point, right? It was to be entertaining. It wasn't, that's why they wore armored pieces, but certain parts of their body were left open so that they could be dramatically killed in some kind of manner. They could be sliced in different parts. And imagine the PCs have to put on a good show, and they have to talk to their allies or even other gladiators like, listen, we need to make this look good. You need to slice me, but not too deeply. And so they have to slice each other, with flesh wounds dozens of times to make the crowd cheer for them, so that if one of them goes down, they get a thumbs up instead of a thumbs down for their actions. And, there's many people say that, like, there's movie fighting and then there's real life fighting. And movie and TV show style fighting, of course, is choreographed. It's meant to be very over the top and very dramatic. And you can have individuals that are given lots of honor to fight that way. And the PCs are like, why wouldn't you just hack them and kill them? It's like, no, we're doing this because we want to live. We want our tale told forever. We want to be the greatest gladiator, and the greatest gladiator puts on the best show in the world. Prue says, I'm a bad person who loves the idea of trapped souls. Souls trapped by the art is the chef's kiss. Yeah, and why not have someone who can trap a soul? Just like Tesla Ranger brings up the Hellraiser's puzzle box, the lament. Oh, it has a name. It's like the lament conflagration or something, or it has a name, though, the Hellraiser puzzle box. And why does a actual ritual spell have to trap a soul? Why can't it be why can't a soul be trapped by a song, or staring into a painting, or staring into the eyes of a sculpture, and all of a sudden you disappear, but the sculpture takes on your form? Maybe there are stone sculptures turned that way by a Medusa or Gorgon or Basilisk, that a great artist brings them back to life, but they're still, stone, and they're walking around. Prue says, lament configuration. Yes, that's it. Yeah, the Hellraiser box, where you have this puzzle box, and this someone somewhere, maybe some evil fiend in the nine hells, created this puzzle box. And if you figure out how to open up the box, it absorbs your soul, or opens a portal to another realm of a combined pain and pleasure. And how great a gift that would be for someone who is a great designer, and even an artist who wants to go to the ultimate place of art, which is a world of nothing but ultimate pain and ultimate pleasure, and brings that to this world. That's where we all know that's where the chained demon or chained fiend comes from. the one where they're just wearing like it looks like a shawl or cloak of just chains with spike hooks on the end. That's where it came from. Of course, is where it came from. And it could be that, those chain demons of pain and pleasure, how can I say, there is a way to placate them by combining the pain and pleasure. The PC that harms themselves puts them into a state of bliss, kind of, and that's their way of getting out. Prue says showmanship is always appreciated, almost no matter your line of work. I absolutely agree with that. How many times the beautiful people, the well-spoken individuals, the ones who draw in the crowd, the person who puts a flair on what they do tends to be the person who's recognized far more than the individuals who created it. It's unfortunate, but that is the truth, right? It's not the writer who creates the story, but it's the writer who speaks the best, who appears the best, who has the best fashion sense, who has the best. I mean, think of Harry Potter, right? The Harry Potter story, in many ways, we've seen that before. Small child becomes a great wizard. We've seen that before, but it's the terminology, the Quidditch and the sports that were involved in it, the background, those words created for us a world for Harry Potter, and in so doing so turned a student that turns into a wizard into a world amongst itself. There are also Foolish Kiwi brings up there's also dirge singers, bards who've given up hope on creating and preserving tales and art and focus only on trying to influence people to serve them. Some air quotes, some men just want to watch the world burn, end up more like a cult artist. Yeah, and can you imagine? There's some people who are not artists. I love that idea where there's just like someone has their art is dark, or they have the special gift of finding artists, but they themselves are like the dark artists, and they collect / kidnap / hypnotize, draw in or pay these dark artists but they have to do these things, and they know they're driving the artist crazy. And so there's a cult of artists that are running around. So instead of like, imagine a group of warriors or mercenaries or assassins or wizards, imagine a cult of artists. There's sculptors and toy makers and art, dancers and singers, and they're all obsessed with this one leader or one goddess or something like that. Azala says in Warhammer's god or goddesses of excess, Slaanesh, I guess is how it's pronounced. I never knew how it was pronounced, but yes, the god or goddess of excess. Rickard says, not arts as such, but there's to an artist. I absolutely agree with that. Imagine there's a great tale and everyone thinks it's great that it's the Willy Wonka tale, right? Someone tries to achieve this grand thing where they could create an art, but they can only do it once. It's the grand gift, the grand wish. Someone achieves it and it turns really dark, right? It's their song that they wanted to create this great ballad of great heroes, and all of a sudden those heroes come back to life and they start murdering everyone. They bring back all the dead from these great wars and they come back. Or the song makes people forget about their homes and they start losing their memories. And it's memories that are what fuels the art. The more memories it's the fey creature that steals memories, but gives people a gift of artistry until that artist no longer can remember who they were or what they want. And then eventually they can't remember the art they create. They create these great art, and the minute they turn their back, they've forgotten they've even created it. And maybe that's their punishment in the world. Everyone else recognizes their art for what it is, but they can never remember that they were there, that they created it in the first place. Slaanesh. It's Slaanesh. All right, thank you, Tesla Ranger, because I absolutely positively need to be corrected on everything. Thank you. Prue says a cursed performer who was greedy and can now only perform if the patrons feed them money straight into the mouth. They have to swallow the play. Will probably be slowly constipated and poisoned. Ow. Maybe I don't want to go that dark, but that would be pretty nasty. And there's so many corrupting ways you can use the arts in a way. It's just so, I mean, eating themselves to death, being fed money, dancing themselves to death, playing a music until their fingers bleed, strumming an instrument till their fingers bleed, drumming on drums till, their hands, are fatigued and their hands are broken and their arms the bones start to break. It's pretty nasty. Deadman says, Slanesh is also the chaos god of perfection. And how many artists out there, all of us who are creators, are perfectionists? The bane of every artist is to have that art taken away from you by someone else and says, you're done. You're done. Stop it. Stop messing with it. It's done already. And you could have a cult of artists that are going around trying to perfect the art that exists. The artist that wants to bring that monolith to life because it's not quite alive yet. The song maker that says, no, the lyrics need to be changed. The tunes need to be changed until it draws people in to be hypnotized forever. Azala says the chaos god of decay, Nurgle, constantly seeking and brewing the perfect plague. Hey, we didn't even talk about alchemist making a perfect blend, whether it's we talked a little bit about foods, but it could be food and drink, that there is a person who's trying to brew something, not necessarily to brew like an explosive or acid, but the perfect meal, the perfect drink. And if you drink this, it'll put you in like a perfect form of pleasure after you taste this one drink of mead or wine or something. Oh, Azal, see it. Yeah, Johansson's got to go. Got to bow out, but catch you later in the week. Yeah, absolutely, Rickard. Thank you very much, by the way. Always there with the intelligence, just like Deadman. Prue says, I love that there's a chaos gods of perfection. That's so fitting. Yeah, because you could never, it's the idea of never being able to reach it or trying to reach towards the chaos god of perfection, knowing that the minute you reach it, you become maybe an avatar of that god, or you take the god's place. Maybe the chaos god of perfection knows that it is suffering so much because it could never reach perfection until that one individual, that one artist reaches perfection, and the chaos god goes, fine, here, you take the reins. I can't do this anymore. Bam, you're the new god, you're the new demigod, and boom. And then that would be really cool to have the chaos god is actually any number of people over time, artists that have created the perfect art. Maybe the perfect art can't be comprehended. It's a painting that everyone sees, but no one can describe. It is a song that everyone hears and no one can repeat the melody of. It could be a sculpture that everyone views, but no one can describe what it is or where it's located. And the PCs need to find it, or maybe an enemy wants to get it and keep it for themselves. Yeah, guys. So yeah, we've hit the hour mark. Of course, it's always an hour plus, but I just wanted to bring up the arts. Thanks, Prue, for the brain fuel. I think next week we're going to talk about blood. Next week we'll just talk about blood, everything that has to do with blood, blood rituals, the blood flowing through you, hemoglobin, like both the mystical realm of why it's the blood and of course the heart. As said on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, why is it always the heart and the blood? Why is it never the pancreas or the liver? And it's like, because the heart and blood is life. It's life itself. It'll never be the liver, or the pancreas. You know what I mean? The gonads. It's always the heart. Well, sometimes the gonads. But anyway, art. This entire week we're going to talk about art, and we're going to go down that path of using art and using art for our world building, incorporating the arts in everything. So uh, Foolish Kiwi says, do blood types influence personality? Many countries believe this. You know what? And how even today, although it's fading away, blood means far more than legacy. I mean, blood means far more than merit, right? Who you are born from, where you're born, and your bloodline. That's a huge thing. So that we're going to absolutely talk about that. Your blood type, the idea of being a blue blood. Exactly, absolutely. Prue says, glad to be of help, even unwittingly. You guys are always unwittingly helping me. So I make out far better than I think you guys do, even if you don't see it. Yeah, absolutely, Prue. Thank you. And I got halfway through your podcast. I'm going to go further, and I watched a bunch of videos from Azad Khan. It's quite hypnotic. I'm going to bring that up as well later on in the week. So we're going to do a little bit of that. Foolish Kiwi says, in many popular anime, for example, a character's blood type is listed near the top. When you look up a bio, that's really bizarre. But you know what? That's an important. It's bizarre to me, but it doesn't mean it's not important. And culturally, that could be a thing as well. And in a fantasy realm, do they have blood typing? Probably. It may not be what we think as blood typing, but it is a thing, right? And the idea of Game of Thrones is all about blood. You're not of my blood, Jon. Jon Snow. You know nothing. You're Jon Snow / John Doe, right? You're a nobody. You're a bastard. But if you're born of a certain bloodline, everything's okay until someone, makes Ramsay a true son, which is like, wait a minute, first it's important, but now it's not, kind of thing. Yeah, it's really bizarre how that's done, but that's part of society, right? Who are you born? The royal blood is extremely important even today in many cultures. Foolish Kiwi say could be kind of like their horoscope or sign, kind of like their horoscopes in terms of Libra, Gemini. Absolutely, positively. How you are born under certain stars, moons, etc., says a lot about your blood, not blood type. I'm using the wrong terminology, but has a lot to do with who you will be and the legacy you'll bring. And so that has a lot to whether you're born under the sign of the dog or the Libra or the Scorpion or etc. The Geminis. You know what I mean? That has a lot to do with it. And it's not, I will stress that it's not a matter of whether you think it's important or not. It's a matter of does that person and does the society think it's important? And if the society thinks it's real, it's real. Perception makes reality. If people think it's a real thing, it's a real thing. And so do horoscopes affect people's personalities? Well, hell yeah, it does if you believe it does. And so we're going to talk about that as well. So I want to talk about sometimes it's, as people want to feel that our merit carries us through life. If I'm a good person, I will be good, and I can choose to be a good person. If I work hard, I will have success. But unfortunately, in a lot of medieval, both fantasy and reality, blood has a lot to do with it and locks people into their own caste system. They're, whether they're above or below, you're born into being a noble, or you're always born into a lower caste, a lower position in life. And that has a lot to do with fighting against that, who you are. Does your blood affect who you will become? I want to be a great warrior, but your blood says you're going to be a sorcerer at some point, fighting against that or falling into it, or not living up to the blood that people think you have. So we're going to do all about that. Proof says, I just talked to him again this weekend. He's a blast to be around, but also very vulnerable, very interesting man. And Azad Khan. Yeah. I just think I love artistry of all types, and especially people who are just masters of sometimes these small things, but you're just like, wow, you're just awesome. Deadman says, looks like Azala is silenced in the chat here. He can still post in the Discord. Yeah. He's got a little glitch going on. Yeah. I had to refresh a few minutes ago. I don't see the glitch, and just this from my end. But anyway, maybe it's YouTube going, dude, you need to get the hell out of here. I'm giving you free. I'm giving you an hour a day, man. You need to step it up. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of this. Of course, we're going to continue talking about the arts the rest of the week. Tips and Tricks Tuesday, we're going to talk about some mechanical ways we're going to throw in the arts into your world and come up with different things like that. World Building Wednesday, absolutely. Things we talked about here, we're going to build. We're going to talk about worlds that are shaped around the arts, like Cyberpunk 2020 and things like that. Foolish Kiwi says 6 o'clock, time for work. Much love, everybody. Yeah, everybody have a great day. Anyone who's brand new for some reason, if you've stuck all the way through this, go down to doobly-doo. I've got to update the doobly-doo with Prue's podcast, so I'm gonna push you out there as well. Thank you very much for giving us the idea. So really appreciate it, Prue, and everybody else. Thank you very much. The rest of the week, we're going to talk about the arts and all that kind of stuff later on. So thank you very much. Next week will be blood. Everyone have a great day. I'm off to work. Thank you so much. Oh, man.